Hello, I'm Patrick Gibbons, Senior Solutions Manager for the IEEE Standards Association Content, Production, and Management Department. We've been working with Typefi since 2015 to generate the PDFs we publish from our XML. Now, it may not be obvious from looking at these gorgeous PDFs, but a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, with indispensable help from INERA, went into getting these results. And though our solution is a stable, well-oiled machine, providing users with tools that will help us put their input into our system and spit it back out for them continue to be a constant challenge. I'm going to give you an overview of our process and how we're handling those challenges. First, a little background. The IEEE Standards Association publishes about 120 standards per year. They range anywhere from 5 to 5,000 pages, typically about 100 on average. And the PDFs are posted on IEEE's online platform, IEEE Explorer. IEEE also houses our in-house XML in a MarkLogic database. Now, we do things a little differently than the IEEE publications editors. Our staff is intimately involved with the standards development process. We guide the authors from the moment they submit their project. We help them know how to best cite different references, what they can do, what they can't do. So we don't just edit the documents. We're very instrumental in helping them understand what they can and can't do. And this is reflected in some of the publishing choices and processes that we implement. Around 2010, IEEE mandated that the IEEE Standards Association provide XML at the same time as our PDFs. And after exploring an XML first publishing solution, which just proved to be unworkable for our users. They really had to have something where they could work offline, and they were uncomfortable with not being able to collaboratively work online. And it ended up being really expensive. Every time we asked for something else, the bill just got bigger and bigger. We had to scrap the whole thing. And we regrouped and we landed on our solution with INERA and Typefi. So before we started working with INERA and Typefi, we had our old workflow, which you're probably familiar with if you're an old timer like me. We would take Microsoft Word documents created in our template. The staff would do a style and format edit, and then we would publish a PDF straight from Word. And then the source file and or PDF were converted into XML by a vendor, an outside vendor. Now, we still do this for those who give us files other than from Word. Some of our Computer Society authors still use FrameMaker. And we also have a handful of people who give us PDFs from LaTeX. They do all the work on their end, and we just tell them what we need. But most people do give us Word files now. And back then, when everything was just made from Word, we just gave them back the source file, and then they could use that to do revisions, and there was no problem. So when we started working with INERA and Typefi, the workflow didn't really change for the users. They still used our template and gave us the Word document. And on our end, we would still apply style and format edits. But instead of making a PDF from Word, we now utilize Xstyles plugin to generate XML from our Word files, both to create our PDFs in Typefi and to supply the IEEE MarkLogic database. However, the processed Word file had been stripped of our template macros, so we were unable to provide our users with the final version of their standard back to them. Luckily, INERA was able to assist us, and actually they created what we call a turnaround macro, which put the Xstyles processed Word file back into the IEEE SA template. Now, this was no short order. It involves updating the metadata variables, format changes, adding a table of contents, restyling paragraphs, and putting in cross-references. Now, this was and is a big deal. There was a lot of celebration. I made a whole presentation on this, and everything was right with the world. Or was it? No. The first big challenge came in 2018 when Microsoft stopped supporting their old equation editor. Now, our users were no longer able to edit math, set in either the old Microsoft Equation Editor 3.0 or in MathType, unless they happen to have a MathType license, which most of our users don't. And for those of you who don't use Xstyles or MathType, MathType is a plugin for Word that we need to use with Xstyles, so that what it does is it takes the equation, the math objects, and it converts them into, in our case, LaTeX, which we need in our XML. But other people convert it into other things like MathML to put into XML. So not long after they took away the old Microsoft Equation Editor, they put a new equation editor into Word, which we have a plugin from GrindEQ, which will convert both MathType and old Microsoft Equation Editor math into the new equation editor. But you can only do it in a docx or a docm format. The old .doc format, the macro-enabled document, will not allow you to edit the math. So our solution was to give everybody a docm format so they could edit these math objects. However, the next challenge arose very recently, just within the past couple of months. We're no longer able to send our docm files through Gmail. Gmail, out of hand, says it's a docm, it's infected, we're not going to let you send it. You can't even zip it up, you can't do anything with it via email. So this is a real problem for us. There's no one-size-fits-all solution for us. A docm is the only macro-enabled format that allows Microsoft Math to be edited, but it can't be sent via an email. A .doc is macro-enabled, but it doesn't allow the math to be edited, though it can be sent by email. And a docx allows you to edit the math, and it can be sent by email, but it's not macro-enabled, so people can't use our macros for styling. So as of this, what are we going to do? We decided we're going to start sending a .doc file to our users. And anyone who wants to be able to insert math into that can download our docm template from a dedicated link on one of our servers. Even in that case, we found users who are unable to open the document once they download it. Different people's servers or home corporate systems won't allow them to use a docm. Sometimes not even a doc. We saw this already over the past couple of years with a lot of people in the military. A lot of corporations were no longer allowing it to be downloaded. So as of this recording, it's looking like we may have to scrap the whole macro-enabled template thing and go with a .doc. They can edit the math, they can send it through email, and this seems to be really the only way Microsoft wants people to go going forward. So that's where we're at. Hopefully at my next presentation, I'll be able to have a better template solution for our users. Maybe there'll even be an XML first editing system. You know, I can keep dreaming. At one of the recent presentations I saw, Debbie and Tommy from Mulberry were saying that they thought it might be around the corner. That remains to be seen for some of the needs of our users, but that's what everyone's looking for. But until then, this is what we've got.